We're talking with Juliet Schor, who's a professor of sociology at Boston College, and her session at DML 2014 is going to be on connected learning in spaces and sites of the connected economy. So tell us about that, Juliet.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled to be coming to DML. It's going to be my first DML conference, and our panel is, I think, really exciting for the MacArthur Network on connected um, learning. I have been researching what I call connected consumption and connected economy spaces. Basically, new forms of practice that have been emerging out of the internet, and in particular, the possibilities that digital technologies give us for sharing, both sharing information, but also sharing stuff. So I'm looking at things like Airbnb and relay rides where people are sharing their homes with others or their cars. We're looking at food swapping. We're looking at people who are sharing content. So the whole open education movement, which is going to be one of the themes of the panel. We've got a couple of people who are very active in um, putting educational resources online and making them freely available. So that's a kind of sharing space as well. And we're also studying maker spaces, places where people are sharing machinery, tools, doing digital making, as well as sort of more old fashioned hand and activities like woodworking and glass blowing, jewelry making, bicycle repair. Um, so we see these activities as part of the emergence of a new sector in the economy. We call it connected economy. Um, the connected word is aiming to talk about a number of different types of connection. Of course, the first, most obvious, is the idea of digital connection, but there's also human connection. So the social connection that happens when people are interacting in these on these sites and with these kinds of practices. We're also studying things like time banks, where people are trading services with each other through a digital platform. Um, so those are two key kinds of connection that we are looking at. But we're also looking at the sort of more complicated and not always so positive dimensions of this connected economy. For example, we look at the ways in which structures of privilege can be reproduced, even on sites and with platforms that are designed to be very open access, egalitarian, non hierarchical. We see the ways in which class privilege, race, and gender privilege also can um, reproduce themselves through these sites. So we're trying to have a more sociological and kind of critical analysis of what's going on in the connected economy and around these practices of connected consumption. I guess the other thing I'd say is that one of the reasons we're interested in these sites is that we think they do represent new sources of opportunity for people, particularly for disadvantaged youth who are the focus of a lot of DML study and activity. And so we're looking at the ways people are constructing new um, means of livelihood, new access to new sources of goods and services, cash and non-cash resources. So the idea of this connected consumption and connected economy as a new space of economic opportunity, as well as just opportunity for learning.
And it seems that peer learning ought to be right in the center of your interests as well.
Absolutely. So the open access education case, my research is organized around cases. So we have the the education case, we call it that. There's a lot of peer learning that's going on there. In the makerspace case, we have a lot of peer learning. And there's another interesting case where we're seeing peer learning that we didn't really expect as much, and that's in our time bank case. The time bank is a platform where people trade services with each other. It's a non-cash economy. They get paid in terms of labor hours or time expended. So if they offer a service to someone for 3 hours, they then get credited with 3 hours of someone else's time. And we're finding that a lot of people are using that site to learn things from each other, whether it's mandolin lessons. One of our participants was learning how to whittle through the time bank. They might be learning a language. They might be learning how to make a resume. They could be learning manual skills or mental skills. So it's an interesting site in that way because it started as a service exchange for people to get access really to things they needed, like a ride somewhere or babysitting or dog sitting. But because of the incredible potential, I think, of these platforms for people to use them for learning, we're finding that even in the non-educational sites, the sort of the intended, sites that are not intended for education, we're seeing a lot of that. And then, of course, we're also studying things like Skillshare and General Assembly and other sites where the learning is absolutely integral to what's going on there.
I think this is a subject that's interested me for quite a while, and I'm glad that a social scientist is onto what I think is a look at the way a lot of things are developing in the future. So, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. It was great to talk with you, and I look forward to seeing you in Boston in March.